Hello everyone, I'm popping in for a very quick conversation because I didn't actually know that, but Vampire the Masquerade Bloodhunt really did not read up on their own mechanics, and their people right now are trying to really push, trying to justify it. One thing that I did not expect Bloodhunt to have is Diablerie. Diablerie is the Vampire the Masquerade's term for eating another vampire's soul, but you have to really go and read how it's described and really understand the connotations behind it, because yeah, it just comes up with some serious consent issues. Outstar. I'm watching influencer videos for Bloodhunt and have a tear in my eye seeing all these complete newbies to Vampire the Masquerade with millions of subscribers learning the terminology and lore. I'm gonna Diablerize him. This is so precious. It took one guy 10 minutes to start saying, "We're doing the D." Yeah, it pretty much is that. Don't even joke about it. We need to collectively protect all new Bloodhunt players. It's family's responsibility to care for these angels. I didn't even think about it. You finish off a squad and everyone has someone to eat. Sees more players. Look, snacks. Have influencers that were advertising Bloodhunt please go and have a read on the mechanics. And if you can't, then let me have a read on them for you. Let's start from the kiss, which is their description for vampire bite. There is a reason why it's called the kiss, and it is because it is inherently sexual in nature. In both Vampire the Masquerade and Vampire the Requiem, the kiss is a word for kindred terminology that refers to the act of biting and drinking blood from a victim, as well as the orgasmic pleasure that it provides both participants. For Vampire, the act of feeding becomes highly sensual, regardless of his or her gender or sexual orientation. This applies to the victim as well. It is an extremely intimate experience, perhaps the most intimate experience either participant will ever experience. For the victim, a vampire's bite brings exquisite bodily pleasure, comparable to or even greater than the height of sexual release. Vampires can have sex and consider it a great way to feed, but carnal pleasures don't mean much to vampires. The vampiric hunger for blood is erotic in nature. Feeding, which vampires call the kiss, is an incredibly intoxicating and erotic experience for vampire and their victims, akin to both sex and falling in love. The victim becomes paralyzed with euphoria, preventing them from escaping and during their senses to the environment. The vampire experiences a head rush as well as its carnal hunger is being satisfied. Sex is a great part of most vampires' lives, but nothing truly replaces the ecstasy of feeding for a vampire. Now let's go to Diablerie. The aggressor duped Diablerist automatically loses some of its humanity and is branded by black streaks in their aura that may persist for several years. Still, the practice holds a great deal of lore, for it is said to bestow the greatest pleasure imaginable to the Diablerist greater than its kiss, and can also grant him or her greater power, greater than the kiss. Let's stop it right out here, because Outstar is trying to twist this by going, hey, sleeping is a greater pleasure to me than sex. Therefore, that is fairly meaningless, but it is not, because the mechanics are the exact same as feeding, except it is done against another player, unconsensually, in this case, and it destroys their soul. No one is seeing anything wrong with this being a mechanic in a multiplayer game? Doing the D is the correct description here. You are dicking other people against your will to death. Effectively. Effectively, that is what you're doing. So, thumbs up for the developers for not reading up. Thumbs up for their marketing department for trying to misguide people on the matters of what these terms mean. And thumbs up for the influencers that have never realized what they're actually doing in the game environment. You know, it's funny, if we had like a game called Rape Simulator, there would be like huge outrage, but when this is practically the exact same thing except through blood, suddenly that is a fine mechanic to have? I'm sorry. I mean, I hope at least. I hope that it's 18 plus. But if you're gonna use terms, know what you're implying with them. Know what you're implying with them. I mean, I saw how it's portrayed. It's portrayed as somebody strangling someone else to death. It's as tame as it can be, but why, if you're gonna go so far as to not show another character feeding on a player character when they catch them to death, why are you still using the term that effectively means doing the deed to somebody to death and destroying their soul in the process? How come I am the only one that even saw this as like remotely disturbing? What the fuck?